Alright, fellow guitar aficionados, my fellow quarantine friends, it is the Evan Z Guitar Hang number 2. I'm going to wait a couple minutes to get things rolling here. Go ahead and introduce yourselves if you're here listening. Appreciate you showing up. Pop up some questions on the chat. I think we'll do this the same format as last time. I'll have like a half an hour of some things I've been thinking about that might be helpful, and then I'll try to answer some questions. So as we wait, I'll warm up with the blues. I'll invite you to do the same. How about a blues in C? For any of those watching out there, let me know how the stream is coming through. Alright, it's been about 4 minutes, 8:04 right now. I say we go ahead and start cracking on this thing. Okay, so first concept I wanted to talk about that I've found really helpful in my playing is obviously most of the time when we're playing chords, generally, or open chords, I should say, we're kind of just reciting shapes that we know. And I'll kind of work through the different keys and tell you what I'm talking about. And so an example, let's talk about the key of C. So you got your C shape. In the key of C we have 7 primary chords, right, associated to the 7 different notes in the major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And really the main chords that you're going to be using are C, D minor, E minor, maybe, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and then C. Generally within that group you're using 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, which is to say the 1 chord, 2 chord, D minor, 4 chord, F, G, our 5 chord, and then A minor, our 6 chord. So I think what, again, a lot of people, we learn shapes, and then we just recite shapes when we see a shape or when we're coming up with a part. And I think it's really important to remember that at the end of the day, you're trying to translate a sound that, for one, you really like, and two, really fits with the setting that you're trying to either create or be a part of. So something that I do is I kind of, to me, the transitions between chords is a huge part of what makes something sound smooth. I like things to have a very legato movement in them, and the more fingers that you're picking up and putting down, the less you're going to get that connectedness through your chord changes. And so a few hacks I use for that is just keeping some of my hands down, and then I just move some of my fingers to create just the minimal amount of movement between chords that I need to. So for example, if we're playing a progression, let's use C, F, and G. It's a 1, 4, 5 progression. So something like this. So I really used the basic shapes in that little progression there. I'm going to play it again for you, but I'm going to use the variations that I was talking about. And so in particular, if I'm playing a C chord, I like to keep my pinky down on the 3rd fret. So that adds the G to the top of the chord, the 5th. And check it out, if I move to an F chord with this shape, this is an F2, so I actually have a G here and the G here, creating, again, that F2 chord. Really cool sparkle to it, right, compared to a lot more weight in this one. This one keeps it much lighter. And then when I go to the G chord, I'm going to keep my first finger down. This first finger is like an anchor through all these chords. Same with this pinky. This is really a G suspended chord, G sus chord, because I have that C with my first finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret, and I'm muting the 5th string. So what I've taken out is the 3rd of the G chord. In that regular G shape, or this one, to me, 1, 3, 5, 1, 5, 1. Anytime you have a 3rd in a chord, it just makes it a little happier. And on the 5 chord in particular, I feel like that 3rd you want to be really picky with. A lot of the times I take it out. So listen to the difference right here. There's something stronger to me about that chord and that voicing. So I'm going to do that same progression with the voicings I was just showing you right there. I could play that all day. It's really nice, right? Again, creating a consistency through the chord. So I'm moving my fingers as minimal as possible. And you still get the character of moving from a 1 chord to the 4 chord to the 5 chord. But you have this this consistent, it's almost like this, it's like a pedal tone that's riding throughout the chords. And you can do this with the A minor and the D minor as well. So let's make a progression that involves those 2 chords as well. So let's start in C. Here's your basic shapes again. Again, that's great. Let's try it now with adding the pinky down. The pinky's going to stay there the whole time, as well as my first finger. What do you think? I think it gives it more, to me, particularly with these collection of chords and voicings, it kind of has this majestic feeling to it that you kind of miss out on when you're, again, just moving those fingers to fill the shapes that you know that you've been taught, right? Those are the basic shapes. And so really, again, the heart of this conversation is, at the end of the day, you're playing sounds. So music theory is a very useful tool, and I will talk about theory as long as I do this, but it's ultimately just to serve as a for categorization, right? So once you know, okay, this is a C shape, well then you know that, and you can reference that. But you're not limited to that. A C is a C, E, and a G together, and it doesn't matter the way that we voice that. And adding notes to a chord, beyond that, that's when you talk about extensions, which is kind of what we're doing here. Think about the categorization of the chord, but you should more importantly be thinking about the overarching vibe that you're trying to create with the chords. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's check out a different key. So C obviously is a key that us guitar players use all the time. Another key that we use all the time is the key of G. In this one, same principle. I really like to use this G chord. So in this G chord voicing, I am keeping my pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string and my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string as well. I'm eliminating that 3rd again. Subtle difference, but it is a difference. You know, it's like my guitar teacher used to tell me, it's not better, it's just different. He was this New York fantastic jazz guitar player. And same goes here. It's not better, but it's different. And it's worth knowing that those options are there. So let's play a 1-4-5 progression in the key of G, keeping my 3rd and 4th finger in that same spot. So if I play, never mind, let's go ahead and play the regular voicings first, and then I'll add this constant pedal tone of these 2 notes throughout the chords. So a regular 1-4-5 progression in the key of G with the same pattern that we had before. Not bad. Okay, now I'm going to keep these guys down the whole time. Try it again. Sorry. There's our 5. Gotta say, I like that much better. I've noticed particularly in the higher registers, you're getting this, when you have that constant, that pedal, it again, thinking for any of those that watched my first video, that higher register, if you're thinking about the guitar, rhythm guitar, particularly as we're strumming chords, really as a rhythmic instrument, having consistency for the listener, it invites them into the groove more, and that's a weird concept, right? But if you, next time you listen to, say, really any pop record for that matter, pop song, if you listen to the percussion, anytime it's introduced, any percussionist who's worth their salt, they're creating something that is melodic even within the percussion. And if you really pay attention, you can hear that. And that's what we're mimicking here on the guitar, or at least what I'm trying to mimic as a rhythm player. And to me, that's what we call, what someone might use the term a deeper groove. That's what that means to me, where you have this deeper intentionality of a repetition within the percussive pattern, just like a melody has these, like the antecedent and consequent, right? Which is that idea that there's kind of this one phrase and then another phrase to answer that. And in the rhythm, we can do that same exact thing. And that's helping to deepen our awareness of the groove and speak into it. And obviously for the listener, we want them to have that experience too. So let's add a couple more chords to that same key structure. So we'll do the same thing. 1, 2, 6, back to 1. That's what we did, right? Let's just use regular voicings for this one. But we went to the 5. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the last one, keeping these 2 fingers down. I actually wouldn't use on the A minor, the 2 chord, I wouldn't use my ring finger generally. I like having that 3rd. Listen to the difference here. That's really a notable difference, right? But I'll play it and then I'll show you how I would just bring a small variation to that. And still have a nice continuity between the voicings. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so that actually sounded great, right? But generally, so if I keep my, when I play that 2 chord, the A minor, and if I keep my 3rd finger there, it's called, generally you think of that as a minor 11, or a minor add 4. And because the 3rd, there's no other 3rd in this voicing, and it's a minor chord, it really makes it very opaque. not too much definition of what it is. So in the right setting, that's pretty cool. But you may really want to have that minor definition, and so if that's the case, just keep your pinky down as that constant tone through the chord, and then move that third finger back for that E minor. I generally always play my E minor like that. And just another side note too, pay attention, that D chord, you see how on the regular voicings I left that, this is just a regular D chord shape, and on the first string, second fret, that's the third, and that's the highest note. To me, that is almost always distracting. Unless I'm playing like a cover that has that shape in it, I rarely play that shape. I really can't stand. It's way too happy. Unless I really want to have a happy sounding song, play this D shape and keeping that second fret down, that F sharp to third, lift it up, and you've got this D sus2 chord that's gorgeous, or D sus4. Okay, so let's try that progression again. I'm going to do that little variation on the A minor, and let's see how it sounds. Pretty cool, pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay, and for those of you who are listening, please let me know if you have any questions. Drop me a word in the chat. Let's move on to another key. So generally the 5 main keys that are used on the guitar, and I mean obviously you can use all 12 keys, but there's really 5 main keys that really fit well with the way that the guitar is laid out, and that spells caged. So a lot of people may have heard of the cage system. Those 5 keys, C, A, G, E, and D, really have the best, unfortunately for jazz players, right, that's all our sharp keys, but if you're playing pop music, worship music, most other genres are really are mostly played in those keys. And so we took care of C, we took care of G. Let's check out E. E is obviously, for anyone who's played more than just beginner guitar, knows that E is really a common key. It's common for the blues, and it's really great for this same concept, but we're going to use it in kind of we're flipping, instead of keeping fingers down, it's more just removing fingers and creating even simpler shapes. So let's dig into that. Okay, I'm going to show you the same thing. Let's just talk about the key of E, and we'll work with the 1-4-5 progression first. And so in the key of E, that would be E, A, and B. That's kind of your common voicings, right? Regular E chord, regular A chord, that B bar chord that's terrible, everyone hates it, back to E. So let's try this out, see how it sounds with the regular voicings. I really don't like that one at all. So immediately I'll show you some of the variations that I like to use. Okay, so if I'm going to the 4 chord from E, I like this E voicing. Even though it has that third in there, this could be another option here. This one's kind of an advanced voicing because you have to do what's called a partial bar. So let's just stick to a regular one for now. If you're interested in that one, though, it's barring essentially these two, the second frets of the 5th and 4th strings, and then using your pinky to play the 4th fret on the 3rd string, but you have to leave the 2nd and 1st string open. Okay, let's go back to this. So we got our E shape, regular E shape, and then for our A shape, let's just play what's called an A sus2. Oh, it sounds great, right? So I'm taking out that 3rd, that's this note here in the A shape, replacing it with the 2nd, which is B. And then when we get to the B chord, we're just going to shift these 3rd and 4th fingers up 2 frets, bring our 1st finger for the bass note on this B here on the 5th string, 2nd fret, and we got that nice, what we have constant in these chords is these 2 notes. Now we're in the key of E, right? These 2 notes are E and B. Those 2 notes comprise the tonic of the chord. That's essentially the primary note, the home note of the key we're in, and the 5th, which those 2 notes essentially can work in every single voicing, maybe minus the 2 chord or the 3 chord, but still it really would work in any of them. Just depends on what you're looking for. So let's try it out. What do you think? I tend to really like that shape. And what's super cool about this little trick here in the key of E is you can use it pretty strategically for every single one of the 7, really 6 out of the 7 main chords in the key, right? So in every single key there's what we call the 7 diatonic chords based off of the 7 notes in the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so for the key of E, E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, D diminished, and E. So if we took E and then we played that A voicing that we had before, but we add with our middle finger onto the 2nd fret of the 6th string, we get what's called an F sharp minor 11 chord. Oh, I love that chord. I would rather play that chord than this chord. That's an F sharp minor, kind of your basic voicing for that. And then on the G sharp, instead of playing this voicing, this would be a G minor 7, and then A, we're just moving back our 3rd and 4th fingers, B, C sharp minor, instead of this, and then you can also play E up here. So this guy just never has to move. It's great. Okay, hang on a second, and then I'm going to give you an example of this voicing here. Okay, so let's go back to, sorry, I got a little off track there showing all those voicings. Let's go back with the minor examples. So that would be 1, 2, 6, 5, 1. Here's the regular voicings. sound pretty good. But this will sound, to me, even cooler. Here we go. Here's the other voicings that we talked about before. So we have E to F sharp minor 11. I'll play a different C sharp minor this time. Here's the E up here. Okay, don't have any questions yet, so let's go ahead and move on to another key. So we've done C, we've done G, we've done E. How about the key of D? I love the key of D. This one is, I don't know if it's necessarily a little bit trickier, but let's just check it out. So the key of D. Our 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of D are D, G, A, and D. So let's try that same progression with those basic chords, shapes that most all of us will know. So we have D, okay. So again, first off, when I'm playing a D chord, I'm not playing, for the most part, the F sharp on the first string. It's too happy for me. Kind of shinier that way, right? So that's a D sus2. And when I go to the G chord, it's as easy as I'll keep these guys down. That's a great voicing for a G chord, right? So I got the G in the bass, and what this essentially creates is what we call a G. Technically, it's a G6-9 chord, but I really think of it more as just a G add 2 in its own way. So, because I'm not totally playing this high E string, I'm kind of muting it with my third finger. I can play it if I want to, which is nice too. I'll experiment with both ways and you can hear it. So again, I just have that basic D shape, and I don't play the third on the first string, so it gives me the freedom to move my middle finger to the 3rd fret on the low 6th string, and that's my G chord that I'm using. And then when I get to the A chord, I can't stand the 3rd again on that 5 chord. I take away the 3rd and I keep this down, so in that way here's our regular A chord, my 3rd right there. If I just keep the same shape that I had before from that D sus2, and I just add the 2nd fret on the 4th string. So let's play those 3 together and see how it sounds. That's what I'm talking about, right? I use these all the time. I really don't use regular voicings anymore, unless, well, I don't even know when I'd use it, seriously. Unless someone were to tell me, don't use that, I want you to use the regular voicings, I'm not going to use it. Or if I'm playing within the context of a group and those notes, depending on what I'm doing, seem to get in the way. Okay, going back again just to remind you, a big part of the purpose in this is not just the sound that it makes, but within the chord, but the sound that it makes in an overarching sense, right? Because you're not just a song is not just those different shapes that you're playing, but it's the collection of them and how you place them together, right? So let's check out the minor version now. So in the key of D, our 2 chord is an E minor, and our 6 chord is a B minor. So I'll play it with the regular shapes, and then I'll show you the ones that I use. So again, that was D, E minor, B minor, A, all in really the basic voicings. Okay, so if I'm playing an E minor in the key of D, I generally just do this guy right here. So what I did is, this is my anchor point, and this is what I call it, right? The note that doesn't, or I'm sorry, the note that doesn't move, or the finger that doesn't move. And that also becomes a kind of an axis point between my chords that I can move a little bit faster that way. And I'm trying to always think about minimizing as much movement as possible, because the more, it's like the less energy you need to use, right? And that will create a faster and smoother transition. The faster and smoother the transition, in my opinion, the more a song will groove. So I'm going from D. E minor is technically an E minor 7 because I have this note added in there. And then for my B minor, I have this voicing. So what I did is I took my middle finger and I placed it on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. This would be a B minor 11 chord because I have this E, which is the 11 in there. And so I have the 1, 3, 7, 3, 11. Let's put it all together. Oh, and then on my 5 chord, I'll go back to just keeping that 3 out of the way, creating an A sus 4 chord. Beautiful. I love those voicings. Yeah, if you guys learn these and you continue to play the old ones, more power to you. But these are pretty cool. Am I right? Okay, just checking in. We're about 40 minutes in, and we haven't got questions yet. Looks like a little bit lighter viewership this time, which is quite alright with me. I just want to make sure that those who have tuned in get their answers, or I'm sorry, their questions answered. So until I see a question, let's just move on to another key. So now we've covered the key of C, the key of G, the key of E, and the key of D, which leaves us with the key of A. I tend not to use the key of A too often within the context of acoustic strumming. There's a couple of tricky ones that I just don't like it as much. So if I have the option, right, our capo is a powerful tool. I can kind of essentially play, and that's a whole nother discussion that we can have, is using the capo so that we can utilize these shapes in different keys. So we have, we can keep that similar continuity, continuous sound. That again, those pedal tones, right? So, but let's check it out. Let's see what I can give you. So if we're working with the key of A, our 1 and 4 and 5 chords are A, D, and E. Let's try it with the regular voicings. Okay, so if I'm playing in the key of A, to be honest with you, it sounds weird to use a sus on the 1 chord. So I probably will leave that 3rd there. I can go for a 2 version as well, sus 2, right? So that would be lifting up your pinky finger, keeping that 2nd string open. Again, that's a B. So I'll just do it as the option for this time, but that's what I'm saying. I don't really love the alternatives for the key of A, but we'll keep it that way for now. And then for the D chord, it's that same one that I talked about earlier, just leaving off that 3rd and substituting it for the 2, creating a D sus2, back to A, and then again, so the regular voicing for an E has that 3rd right on our 3rd string. We're playing it with our 1st finger. So going back to that voicing I talked about earlier, this guy, this would be called an E5 because there's no 3rd in the chord. E, B, E, 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 E. There's something much more regal about that chord to me, and again, it sounds stronger. So again, this is always depending on the context you want to use it, but it's good to know. It's a hard chord if you have weak hands because you got that partial bar going on. But let's see how it sounds. I'll put it together using those voicings I just talked about. Funny, I liked that better when I played it than I thought I would like it. Okay, so that's the 1, 4, 5, our major chord options. Also, there's so much more than this. Another encouragement for you as you experiment by yourself or with a friend, obviously via FaceTime or Zoom or something like that, because you shouldn't be seeing any of your friends. You shouldn't be stepping out of your house. Where was I going with that? Okay, yeah. So if you're practicing these chords, experiment with just pulling off notes. So a big part of this, I think people get intimidated. They want to learn the shapes, and then they plug in the shapes of the songs that they're trying to learn. If something's not working out for you, you don't like the sound of it, try changing it. There's no rules here. Make it your own that way. And that's a lot of the way that I found out these shapes. And really, it's for sure the reason that I use these shapes is I just like the way that these sound much better compared to the voicings that you're really taught to use. Have fun with it. That's really important. And it can be, the cool thing about the guitar is, as someone who's taught the guitar and played the guitar a lot, both, it has kind of an easy entry-level way in. I mean, but it's eternally deep. It really is. But you can gain a lot by if you kind of get key concepts with the guitar and can develop a base level of strength and dexterity, you can do a lot of damage. So let's check out those minor voicings really quick here in the key of A. So we have A, and then we'll go to our 2 chord, which would be B minor. I'm going to use that same voicing that I used in the key of D for the 6th chord in the key of D. Again, that would be, I use my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, my pinky finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then for that 6th chord, it's an F sharp minor. Instead of going this way, I use that voicing we talked about in the key of E, which is just using my 3rd and 4th fingers on the 2nd frets of the 4th and 3rd string, and my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 6th string. And then for that E chord, I'm going to do that same stinky partial bar. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and use the regular voicings to show you the contrast. So here's the regular version. Okay, let's try the other ones. Not too bad, right? Okay, well, that's really all I had prepared to go through today. And I'm not seeing any questions left here, so I might call it early. That's still a good about 50 minutes I think we got into this thing. For those who tuned in, thank you. And hopefully we'll get some viewers after the fact. I'll leave this guy up. I was actually planning on taking the last one down, but before I had a chance to, some other people watched it and really enjoyed it and got some stuff out of it, so I'll leave this guy up. If you know of anyone who might be interested in material like this, please have them connect with me in my channel. I really want to be, and if you have ideas on what might be useful for people or what might be useful for you, I want to hear back from you. I want to hear feedback. I really want to be a resource for people. I feel like it's like the least I can do during this weird quarantined time. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Evan Z's Guitar Hang number 2. I will see you next Wednesday for Evan Z's Guitar Hang number 3. I hope to hear from you between then. Talk soon.